Hey, it's Big Bear again, and now we're going to be covering arcane items in my third installment of magical items in the Big Red Book. So uh, we're going to go ahead and start with the first item here, being the Book of Azure. Actually, I should take a second before I jump into this and basically explain arcane items for new players. What arcane items are? They can only be taken by wizards. Period. No other person can do so, and they're really good defensive items against magic and make your magic phase a lot stronger. So to me, this is one of the most interesting parts of the magic selection for magic gear. The next would probably be enchanted items, but um, with that in mind, we'll go ahead and get into the actual item. So, like I said, the Book of Azure gives you 70 points for +1 to temp spells and to dispel spells. So, for 70 points, you get offensive and defensive capabilities because the +1 to dispel actually comes in a lot more handy than you'd think it would. I mean, every time you get level 4 out there, he becomes basically a level 5. So, and 70 points is steep, but if you're trying to dominate the magic phase, this thing can do so. I do think there's better, cheaper options in the arcane item thing here in conjunction with more wizards, so that's something to look at. But if you only have one level 4 and you're not really worried about, dispel scrolls and such, this could be something to look at to make your magic phase a lot stronger overall. As said, there will be other things that will make one or two spells really effective right then, and we'll cover that when we get there. So, alright, the next magical item that I'll be covering is going to be the scroll of the feedback scroll. Feedback scroll lets you basically anytime an opponent casts a spell, you roll a dice for every dice that they do, and on 5 up they take a wound no armor save. So this is good for people who like to throw 6 dice at spells. And they're doing it with level 2s. Level 3 it's okay, but level 2 is where it shines when you're using this against them because they only have 2 wounds. So if they get dwellers off, you're like, cool. So here's my feedback scroll. Bam. So he's dead. 9 out of 10 times he's gonna drop. So that's really good for an instant kill on a wizard. You don't have to worry about anybody getting hurt. Um, but the big thing to know with it is it's after the spell has been resolved. So your unit's gonna take it. You can't use a dispel scroll on somebody else and then feedback scroll. You have to actually let the effect happen. So most of the time when they're throwing 6 dice to they're going to be doing something really big. So you got to keep that in mind. It doesn't make it a must take. It has its risks, but it can throw people off guard and kill some wizards. So the next one is Scroll of Leeching. This thing lets you, when they throw their dice, you get to add those dice to your dispel pool. So this, to me, it shines mostly when somebody's throwing like 3 or 4 dice at a spell. You want to use this guy here and take those 3 or 4 dice. You're not going to have to worry about big bads hurting you. 3 or 4 dice. Usually they aren't doing Pit of Shades and crazy stuff like that. They're doing things like +3 toughness, and while that's good, um, it's one of those things where you want to stop the rest of that phase, and you can use the extra dice to help stop, like Shield of Thrones or whatever it is, to stop the miscast. So you can use that to mess up the rest of his phase to where he has to go back and cast his other spells, so that's all he gets for his whole phase. The next one is the Hex Scroll. This basically, a wizard will roll his level or under, and if he fails to do so, he turns into a frog and all stats drop to 1. To me, this thing really shines against level 2s, as they're going to be have to roll a 2 or 1. If they fail, they drop into a frog, and on the next turn, they fail at 4 up, which is 50% of the time, like flipping a coin. If they fail that, their unit can only march 2 inches because they have to stay with their unit, or if they leave, they're really susceptible to being killed. So that's something to think about with this item. Now, casting on level 4s really isn't that effective. They're going to pass 66% of the time, so I wouldn't risk it. The next thing is a Power Scroll. This thing lets you do any doubles, do Irresistible Force. The cool thing about this is that if you want a spell to go off, like I keep using the Skaven example, but Dreaded 13 is just so powerful. And let's say, you have this in there just in case you're trying to, get like even with just Wither. I know it's only 8+ to cast, but let's say you have hand to hand going down, fighting against Chaos Warriors, with a huge unit of slaves, like 80 slaves. You go, I need this Wither to go off because this is getting close to the end of the game. Bam, throw that at them, drop them to, toughness 3. You're doing a ton of wounds to them with slaves. So, uh, the Dread 13 itself could just erase the unit. Yeah, your wizard's going to get hurt, but this is one of those things you're going to take in conjunction to a 4-up ward save. And again, with Skaven, or Lizardmen for that matter, you already have a ward save built in, so it could be worth it. So yeah, the next one is the Wand of Jet. This lets you add an additional d6 after the dice have been rolled. It says this extra power dice can contribute to the spell being irresistible. To me, what sucks about this is it says the extra power dice. If it didn't say the extra power dice, then you could throw 7 dice at a spell, which is really good, basically guaranteeing an irresistible cast. But as it stands, it's 35 points for 1 extra power dice. Most people, I take the Casket of Souls, it's 135. It gives me D3 every turn. So you think, that thing usually stays. I've never had it die. So out of my, 10 games of Tomb Kings, I think that's 60 times I've rolled that D3. That's a lot better than 35 points in my book. So if you have an army that doesn't have access to that, though, it might be worth it. But there's other things we'll cover later that'll help you. So for a lot cheaper. So the next thing is the Forbidden Rod. It adds extra d6 to the power pool at the starting of your magic phase, but it also inflicts d3 wounds to the bearer with no armor saves. So this is a big thing because it's 3 actual wounds. So it's not like it's one hit that does 3 wounds. So you can do this to a wizard, and it's actually really good, just like Malorian covered. You put it on somebody with a 4-up ward. If the 4-up ward is not just for this; it's also going to protect you from miscasting, which is big, and it'll protect you from sniping spells in hand, keep you around longer, all kinds of stuff. Throw this thing in there, and there you go. Your wizard's rolling 3 saves. Most of the time, he's going to live, and you're going to have an immensely strong magic phase. This is exceptionally good. Just like I'll explain later with the power scroll, when you roll a 4 or less on the Winds of Magic. So let's say you roll a 2 and a 1, you have 3 dice, the opponent has 1, and then bam, you're like, cool, here's an extra d6. Let's say on average you roll a 3 or a 4. Now you've just like doubled, if not tripled, his dispel dice, and you're just going to dominate that magic phase. So it's really good. But in my opinion, you should be taking it pretty much on a character with a 4-up ward, or on a little baby level 1 that you don't really worry about if he dies or not. Yeah, you're gonna lose 50 points with a Night Goblin Shaman, but 50 points plus the 35, I should say, so 85 points to give you d6 extra dice. It's not guaranteed that he will die, and if you roll 6, you're just throwing out all kinds of stuff that your opponent can't stop. So it's a big boost for a little hurt. So yeah, the next one is the Trickster's Shard. The thing with this is for the duration of the phase, when the spells are dispelled, roll when the spell is dispelled by an enemy wizard, roll a d6 on a 5-up. They suffer a ward save. I'm not really impressed with this thing at all. Yeah, if you take a ton of remains of play, it can be effective, but most of the time you're really not. So I don't know. I just say leave that one at home. The next one is the Earthing Rod. Lets you reroll on the miscast. This thing can be good if you have a lot of points invested in one character. Like with the Fat Frog, why not take this thing? If you don't take anything else that helps you stop the miscast. I mean, by doing so, you're making sure you're not getting that result of 4 or less most of the time, and that's a big deal. He dies, you're losing like 400 some points. It also can be good for greater, I would say greater demons. Actually, that's a mess up because they can't even take this item. But you understand what I'm saying. Just really expensive casters um, that you don't want to drop. So that's a good defensive item for them. The next one is the Dispel Scroll. I think this is, to me, it's a must-have in my list. I used to take it every once in a while, and then I got hit by some huge spells. Skaven, Lizardmen hit me with some stuff, and it's most of my opponents, and undead as well, vampires. And when that happens, I mean, it's just some of the stuff you're like, oh my god, that I lost the game. If I could have just stopped that. Well, this thing can stop that. And the thing to remember with this, just like Once Bitten and Malorian have covered in a lot of their magic tactics, is that you don't have to stop every spell. You need to let some stuff get through. And this is one of those things where you sit on this thing and wait for the pivotal moment in the battle. Some games I've never even used it, even though there's been magic all game long, because I've been waiting for that one big spell. So the last turn of the game, I used it on just something little, just so it actually had an effect, and I can stop the rest of its magic phase. But there's been those games where I've waited all game, and then turn 5, oh my god, my opponent's getting all excited because here you go, he's casting, a spell to kill my whole unit, or give him +3 toughness because he's about to get charged by 3 of my units, and I don't have that. He used a Forbidden Rod, and I only have 2 Dispel dice, and he's all excited because he's got 8, and bam, here it goes, he did an Irresistible, I can't stop it, okay, now Dispel Scroll. So that shuts down his whole use of that Forbidden Rod primarily. So, I mean, it's pretty big. For 25 points, it's not that, I mean, if you think the average infantryman, from what I've seen for most armies, is 6 to 7 points. So you're losing, 3 guys to basically shut down a magic phase. I think it's worth it. So the next one, Power Stone. This thing's just like the Forbidden Rod to me. It's also really cheap, 20 points. I field it a lot. It's one of those things you wait till you roll a 3 on your power dice and then use this bad boy. You've got 5. And you don't have to worry about hurting yourself. So it's a lot safer and can make your magic phase a lot stronger. The next one is the Scepter of Stability. One use only, lets you increase one of your dispels by an additional d6. This one can make it just dispel with Irresistible. This thing is pretty good if you've already taken a power, a dispel scroll on somebody else, and you're going for max defensive bonus against people. But I do think its competition is a lot better than it, and we'll get into that right now. The Channeling Staff, I love this thing. I take it a lot, especially on my Orcs and Goblins. 15 points, put on a little Shaman, and you think, 6 magic phases, that's going to equal 12 attempts to channel with that one wizard, because you have your magic phase and theirs. So doing the math on that, I know math hammers aren't always reliable, but you have to look at it. So doing the math on that, you're going to pass 13% of your channels, so it's usually 1 out of every 6 magic phases, or 1 every phase for each player turn. So that's 2 dice added in somewhere between power and dispel. This thing makes it on mathematically 4 times, so it doubles that for 15 points. So if you're looking at like the Power Scroll, 20 points, you're getting 2 dice. This thing, on average, will give you those 2 dice, but it can also give you the potential for more and less. So it's risky, but I have had games where it's given me 4 dice, through the course of the game, like 2 dispel, or 3 dispel, and 1 power was one I remember. So it made my, I was shutting my enemy down all game. He's like, man, you're always channeling with that guy. Yeah, because I keep rolling a 5. So it's something to look into and to try. Don't just shut it out because it doesn't look, oh my god, flashy. Sometimes not things that aren't oh my god flashy are things that'll win you games. So the next one is a Scroll of Shielding, 1 use only. You get a 4 upward save against any wounds caused it by a spell. This thing can be kind of cool if you have some points lying around and you want to throw it in a unit that you don't want to die master of. It's like, I wish I would have had this on my unit of skeletons when I got hit with the do a toughness test or die spell. I could have just been like, cool, I don't care. I lose 50% of them from the spell, so that's 25 dead. This thing cuts that in half, so that's 12 dead. Not a big deal, shut down this whole magic phase. So, alright guys, we only have one more set of items to go, and then we're all the way done with this, and then I'll probably do a little summary thing about magical items, and yeah, so I hope you're enjoying.